In this video, I'm going to show you how to go from this to this and give any room in your house a fresh update. If you've never done electrical work before, it's actually quite easy. So let's get out of the weeds. So we're down here in our basement, and what I'm going to be doing is taking out all of these fluorescent light fixtures and replacing them with recessed LED Canless lights. And so I'm going to be walking you step by step how to remove these light fixtures and put in the new lights. Here in a different part of my basement, I've already replaced a couple of the light fixtures earlier last year. And so I'm getting ready to do the rest of the basement. And you can see it's just a much cleaner look. But the number one thing before you're doing any electrical work is make sure you go and turn off the electric to the area you're working. And so mine's right here. And so now all my basement lights have no power going to them. This is a very critical first step because you do not want to get the unpleasant shock whenever your wife or your kids go and they flip the switch and you didn't cut the power to it, and you are in for a rude awakening. So I actually made that mistake whenever we first moved into our house. I'd never messed with anything electrical, and we were replacing some lighting fixtures, and it was just me and my dad in our house because we hadn't moved in yet or anything. Just me and my dad there, and I'm up there replacing on a ladder, replacing a light fixture. My wife walks in, flips the switch that I'm working on, and gave me quite the shock. So you don't want to have this happen to you. So make sure you cut the power to the area that you're going to be working on, so you don't have to worry if somebody messes with the switch. So now I'm down here with the basement lights all turned off, and so I actually have my wife's ring light plugged in here to give me some light down here, so I'm not working in the dark. And so make sure you have some kind of work light or something to give you some lighting in the area if there's none available. Down here in the basement, we don't really have too many windows or anything, so not much light gets in. So if you see here up in the ceiling, don't mind all the cobwebs, but it's actually attached by wire there. You can see that nail there, and it's attached. So what you'll have to make sure you do is cut them loose. So if they're attached that way, whatever way they're attached, just make sure you find that out and cut it loose, because you're never going to get them down until you cut the wires.
So the wire's used for two things, one to hold up the lights and one to hold up the drop ceiling. So make sure you cut the right wire whenever you're doing this. Once the light is cut free, you can easily remove it once you cut the electrical wire going into the light. Then just be careful and drop it down and take it out. And then you can see here, this is what it looked like once we got all of the 4 lights taken down.
So the next thing we have is we're cutting the holes into the drop ceiling. And so the first thing I did was measure to find where the center part was, because I want to make sure the light's centered in the panel. And so I found where it's centered at. And then the lights that I have, they actually come with a template. And so I have the template right here. And so I put that right in the center. And then I just use my little knife here, and I cut out the holes. Once you kind of have your finished product, it'll start to look a little bit like that. So you can see here, here's the lights that we're going to be using. So they're really, really thin, and they have just the little clamps on the back. And so that hole is the diameter of this here. And so any kind of mistakes, or if it cracks a little bit around the hole, it'll get covered by the edge here if it's not a perfectly clean cut. If you've ever messed with drop ceiling panels before, just be very careful. They can be very, very fragile. They're very easy to crack and to break, so just be very careful when making your cuts.
So here are the junction boxes, or J boxes for short. They have the 3 easy connects for the ground, and then the black and the white for easy connections. Then you take the junction box and you mount them to the floor joists in the ceiling where you're going to mount your lights.
Okay, so after you have the junction boxes hooked up, you have your 3. You have your green one for ground, you have your black and your white here. And so with your electric wire, you have the same here. You have your bare one that's going to be for your ground, and then you have your color-coded black and white. And with the lights that I bought, they have just these really easy connectors where you just push them in. You can see the 3 holes there. And so what I'll do is I'll push each one into its color-coded hole, and then there's a 3rd hole, so then if it's not the end of the circuit, you can go on to the next light. So for me, we're putting up 8 lights, and this isn't the end of them, so I'll have another end of electric going into the 3rd hole to get ready to go and wire to the next light. But you just got these real easy connects, then everything shoves up in here, and then the junction box closes. And then you have just down here, this connects to the actual light in the panel, which we'll get to once we get all the wiring hooked up.
So once you connect all of your junction boxes, you can then begin to run the electrical wire to each one, making the easy quick connects before moving on to the next one. And for this project, we used 12 gauge wire for our electrical wire. After we attached the first light, we actually hooked it up just to test to make sure our connections were good for the first one. And you can see here it lit up once I turned the power back on. Once you have all the wire ran, you then begin to replace the drop ceiling tiles, and then you can just easily connect your light into each proper placement. And you can see here you just go step by step, working it down the line, connecting each light until it's in this place. And this is what it looked like when we were finished. You can see it gives a nice, clean, updated look to our basement. To figure out how many lights you will need for an area, you can just go online and search for a calculator that will tell you the exact number of lights you will need for a specific area.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel.